Welcome, everybody, to the Fearless Influencer podcast. And I am so excited today. This is going to be a very different episode than something that we normally talk about. But I've got a very special guest today. And I'm very excited about this because I have, just recently, it's kind of a journey I've been on for a long time. But I realized that I could not do this on my own. And I'm talking about the health journey. And so recently I saw a good friend of mine on Facebook, and she was posting every day about her journey and how she was getting healthy. She'd lost this weight. She was doing things. And I reached out to her and I said, Leah, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I connected with this dude in South Africa, and him and his wife, they're coaching me and helping me. And I'm like, who is he? I need to know him. Connect me with him. And that very day, she connected me with my now health coach, Nick Howarth. What's up, Nick? Great to have you here, man.
Hey, Mark, it's great to be here, man. I'm really excited about this. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you too. I had this because I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I know you have been too. And one of the things that I know as an entrepreneur, we tend to, especially when we're doing online marketing, we tend to get this tunnel vision, and we're focused on building the business, increasing revenue, doing all these things. And it's so easy to throw aside the health. It's so easy to
Yeah,
forget, oh, it's lunchtime. Let me go up and eat crap and then come back down and sit at my computer. And, there's just this vicious cycle. And I'm sure you've seen it a lot too. And I know you have a story too that I'd love for people to hear, how you got.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How I got started with this was I was a sportsman. I grew up as a sportsman. I was always fit. I always wanted to be in shape, and I exercised. I probably in my entire life missed, I don't know, very, very few days of my life where I haven't done some kind of exercise. I love exercising. But when I got to my early to mid 40s, I put on a lot of weight. I put on like 30 odd pounds over what I weighed when I left school. And I felt that I was in great shape when I left school. So I looked around for something that made sense to me, because there's a sea of information on health and diets and a lot of fads, and everybody wants to be an influencer, and all of that. And I'm a very practical, straightforward kind of guy where I want something that works. I don't want the fancy frills. So I found a book that was written in 1862 called A Letter on Corpulence. Now, corpulence means obesity.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this makes sense. Let me read this, because I wasn't obese, but I probably would have been if I'd have carried along that journey. So I read this book, and it was a very basic version of what we're doing. And I started applying it, and I lost all of that weight within 3 months. I had a lot of hardships. I didn't really know what I was doing, because there's a lot more to health and losing weight than just changing your diet to, low carbs and all this kind of thing. And which we found out over the years, because I've been at this for like about 12 or 13 years now. So, after that, I started coaching other athletes, and that turned into athletes' families and friends, and then their friends and families, and, and it expanded like that. We had to kind of evolve this into having a program which had basic fundamentals, but was still tailored to the person in front of us with their individual issues that they have. And that's what we came up with. And about 5 or 6 years ago, we came up with this program, which we felt has all the fundamentals for a healthy life, and then tailor it. We trim it here and add a bit on there, and for guys like yourself and other people. And and that tends to that worked really well. And over the years, we've had a lot of people invite us to add their little thing to our program, and add these tests and do this and all these. And I look at it, and I immediately see when something is a bit of a fad, So I go, no, I appreciate you reaching out to me, but we have something that's workable here. There's no need to add to it. There's no need to become too significant about things. I also feel that when you start doing that, when you start to get too complicated with this whole thing, people introvert. They introvert into the scale, or he introverts into his fatty liver, or he introverts into his brain fog, or whatever it is that he has. And like, is it changing? Am I getting better? And we don't want that. Just like put these boots on, walk in them, and things will progressively get better. So anyway, yeah, that's how it all started and ended up at this point.
Yeah. One of the things that you said, I think is so key here is there's a sea of information. I mean, we are at no loss for information. You can go to YouTube, you can go online and search and go down any rabbit hole you want, any fad you want, any diet you want. I mean, it's all there for you. And I know for me, because this is the thing, I've tried all these different things, but I think the key thing for me, there's two things. Number one, understanding more about how the body works. And that is something, since I've been working with you, has done incredible things, because I started to learn just regarding insulin, like, oh my God, like I never really understood how all that worked. And now I understand it because I'm starting to understand it. Let's put it that way. I'm still on that journey, but, so I guess the biggest question that probably a lot of people are thinking is like, how do you navigate and really understand and find something amongst all the sea of information? Because everybody's going to say their way works. You know what I mean? I know it's a little bit of a challenging question, but I can say for sure, I know because I've been working with you, it's working.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the best way. It's like the way you came in through Leah. It's like you have someone who's a trusted terminal, who's had wins with this program or with a program, and they're tangible wins. And you can, and you look at that and you go, well, where is this guy? How do you do this? And focus on that rather than, trying to find different gurus on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're looking for these things, because a lot of them have valid points, but it's a matter of like going, I need to find something that works. It's worked for one of my friends. Let me try that. And then, I don't want to look further than that. I just want to do this, and then like when we started our program with you, one of our products is obviously to get the guy healthier, but also to get a guy knowledgeable on how the body works and what different kinds of foods do to the body. And, once the guy has that in place, he can then go on his own and he can then sift out, what works and what doesn't. Like you'll like, I watch like probably 15 seconds of someone on YouTube and I'm like, nah, I'm not watching anyone. They'll say something and I go, nah, or I'll watch it and I go, hey, this guy has a point. Let me see what he has to say, and it's usually something that we already know, but for someone who's learning, that's the right way to do it. I would think like our business has grown through word of mouth mostly. We do a fair amount of marketing, not a lot, but our business grows like quite a lot every year just through people telling their friends and family about it, and that's how it goes, And I think that's the best way to navigate this minefield of data out there is to find something that's worked for someone that you trust, Yeah.
I think too, I think most people can agree that sugar is not a good thing. I mean, I think most can agree that excessive amounts of sugar are not good. And since I've been working with you and really reading labels and understanding more about it, I am completely blown away about how much sugar is in the stuff you would never even expect. Like, it's got sugar in it, And I think it's kind of I don't know what they call that thing, but it's like you buy a certain car and now all of a sudden you see all those cars on the road.
Yeah.
You never noticed it before, but now you notice it. I think it's like reticular activator, or I don't know what it is, but that's the way it is. once you kind of understand how sugar is just laden in everything. And I mean, especially here in America, I know you and I have had talks about it. I mean, I found it downright criminal of what's going on in the foods and things like that. And but I don't know, maybe talk a little bit about sugar because you've really enlightened me a lot on how the body utilizes sugar and how the body needs very little of it. And I think you had even mentioned one time is like when we deny ourselves the sugar, the body will actually create its own on the little bit that it needs to function.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe talk about that for a second because I found that fascinating.
Yeah. So basically, in the 50s, the fast food industry started really pushing their products. And so did the sugar industry at the same time. So, marketing is everything. Marketing is everything. So these guys marketed the idea that sugar is good and fat is bad. And they took the fat out of food and when you take, because fat is actually quite sweet. When your palate is adjusted to it, so it becomes quite sweet. So they take the fat out of food and it becomes unpalatable. So they put sugar in it to make it palatable. Okay, so now so people are going, well, isn't sugar bad? You go, no, sugar gives you energy, sugar does this, sugar does that. And so people start eating sugar, and this whole idea that sugar is good for you and your body needs sugar and your brain runs off sugar and your liver runs off sugar and all of these things, they start to push those ideas, which are not necessarily untrue. They do run on sugar or more precise glucose, but your body can make that from protein and fat. And if you cut out actually putting sugar into your mouth and swallowing it, your body will produce only the amount of glucose that it needs, which is about half a teaspoon of glucose. So that's what your body needs at any given time. I mean, obviously people have different sized bodies, and it would vary slightly like that, but that needs about half a teaspoon of glucose at any given time, which it makes only the amount that it needs, which means insulin levels come down then, because that's one of the jobs for insulin is to remove excess glucose. If your body only needs half a teaspoon of glucose and you drink a fizzy drink that's got 25 tablespoons of, that's where diabetes comes from. That's where diabetes comes from, because then your cells become insulin resistant because there's too much insulin trying to deal with the sugar. And then people get, causes all sorts of other issues. And then you have medicines and the rest of it start coming into the mix there, and everybody gets on this bandwagon of people being unhealthy. It's a profitable business for people to be unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, is like, I was just thinking about, you drink a Coke and you got 25 teaspoons. Talking about the body needs half a teaspoon. You've literally just drank in one sitting enough sugar for 2 months for the body. You know what I mean? It is. It's crazy. Yeah. And then when I started to really like understand some of this and how it works, it made sense to me, because I think in order for someone to be healthy, you do need to understand how your body works, how the body works, period, how it burns energy, burns fat. And that is something that's been very enlightening to me, because honestly, I've heard these terms before, insulin resistance. But when I started really diving into it with you and, some trusted sources that I know you and I have talked about, it started to really make sense to me. And now I'm looking at every label. I'm thinking about what's going in my mouth. Like, am I putting sugar in there? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but also when you eat sugar, there's 2 ways that the body burns energy. It's either the sugar in the blood or the fat stores on your body, right? And if you deny it the one, it's going to start feeding on the fat in your body. Is that correct?
That's correct. So if you deny it of sugar, it has to find a fuel source to work with. Your body has to have a fuel source. So when you're eating sugar, that turns into something called glycogen. And glycogen is what insulin pushes into the cells to get energy, basically. But it's a very futile fuel source. It can only store approximately 4,500 calories at any given time. The body starts to think it's starving when it gets to about 3,000 calories. So the person's hungry, and generally you overeat, and then he puts on a bit of weight, and over the years, this adds up and adds up and adds up. Whereas, if you think about these Homo sapien bodies, kind of came into being, who knows how long ago, they were eating what they could pick up off the ground and kill, basically, and that's what they were eating. And they certainly weren't having 3 square meals a day, at that point. Maybe once every 2 days. And that's how these bodies and our cells in our bodies were designed to operate. They weren't designed to operate like processing food and high amounts of insulin all day long. Your digestive tract, on the other hand, also has a whole lot of other functions besides digesting, creating an immune system. It does all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So these are all things that the Western diet is just going straight into the teeth of. And I don't even have to prove this to anybody. You really just need to open your eyes and look around.
Yeah.
and see the general health of people,
Yeah. You were talking about too, I was just thinking as you were saying this, like the proof is, you talked about in the 1950s, you said, when they started pulling out fat and putting in sugar. You can look, like you could literally probably go look at a graph, I'm just guessing here, and see where the obesity in America has just gone nothing but up since probably that period.
Definitely.
I mean, it's crazy.
If I was looking at photographs. Okay, so this was the 60s, which was just slightly after, this whole industry came into being. But I was looking at photographs of Woodstock, and there's nobody there that's out of shape. And these are all beings. It's like, yeah, exactly. So you look at it from that point of view, and all these people are in shape, and they have 6-packs, and they're not skinny, they're not big, they just have a normal sized body. So if you think of it, over the years, that's just gotten worse and worse, and it's spiraling out of control currently. I mean, on planet Earth right now, the health issues are spiraling out of control.
Yeah, and I know, I know personally, like when I contacted you, and this is, what I wanted to tell people on here too. When I contacted you a month ago, I knew I needed to do something, and I stepped on the scale, and it's the most I've literally ever weighed in my entire life. And here we are a month later, and I'm down 24 pounds as of this morning, just following what you've been
crazy
to do,
24 pounds.
And it's not like I'm doing like massive exercise here. I mean, it's just basically what I'm eating is what has been causing this to happen. And my body has shifted. I can feel the shift. And I've talked it to you too. And I think I want to talk about that too, because the hardest time of starting something is right in the beginning. And I know that those first couple days were hard. Like it took some willpower to like not, because I remember like when my wife and my wife's been kind of following along, not, as hard as I have, and as, but she's been following along. She's already lost 10 pounds, just kind of not eating in the morning, and not eating at night, and following the somewhat of the plan. But the interesting part is that I always used to be hungry. I mean, snacking was like nonstop. My stomach would be like, early in the morning, I'd eat something, and then by mid-morning, my stomach is growling again, and that was a little bit hard to overcome, but because of all of the sugar, getting over that. Yeah. Talk about that for a second, because I think that's the hardest part for people. I know it was for me.
It is the hardest part. Obviously, for your body to shift from one fuel source to another. I mean, this is part of the problem. There's a few issues that cause that. Mostly when someone's hungry all the time, it's an insulin resistance thing. So it's like your body's not getting the nutrients that it's supposed to be getting. So it's hungry all the time because insulin is so high that your cells have closed up to insulin. Insulin is the key that opens the cell to drive nutrients in. So you can see what a problem it will cause if your cells become insulin resistant, they're not going to get nutrients. So you're hungry all the time. And the more you eat, the higher your insulin levels go, the hungrier you get, the more you eat. And it's this dwindling spiral of unhealthiness.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. The other thing is that your body's being used to eating sugar and carbohydrates or processed carbohydrates for so long that's what it wants. That's what it thinks it runs on.
Yeah.
So you stop putting that into the body, and it is the only way of dealing with this is just putting that into your body. And the body's a wonderful thing, which you've experienced on this program, heals itself, and it's a wonderful women thing. That's, so the body goes, well, where are we going to get any fuel from? So, well, yeah, hey, well, what about burning some fat as fuel? So that starts to take fat, and it goes for the fat on the liver first, which is also a good thing. So it takes fat and it turns it into ketones, which is the fat version of glycogen, which is what carbohydrates turn into. But the body absolutely loves ketones. No matter what anybody tries to say about it, the body, the brain, the kidneys, everything loves ketones. So when you're eating fat as fuel, and your body is producing ketones, your body can store 120,000 calories of energy at any given time, as opposed to 4,500 from stress. So, yes, you're not hungry all the time. Your body doesn't think it's starving. So once your body's doing ketones, then it also needs to learn how to adapt to using ketones as fuel. So your body has ketones. The people go and they do a little ketone test, and they go, yeah, I'm not your ketones, but I'm still feeling like I have no energy. And it's just the body has to adapt to using those ketones. So anyway, now you have that period of, stopping carbohydrates and the body going, oh yeah, we can actually use fat as fuel.
Yeah.
And that period is what you're there's like, and you get all like moody and, oh man, it's terrible. And a lot of it has to do with like B vitamin supplies. If the person, you get low on B vitamins. So, because the body uses B vitamins to metabolize fat. So you can extrapolate from that. You would be depleted in B vitamin, so that will make you, have, low spirits and get cranky and all of these kinds of things. So, it's interesting when you really look into it. And then when you know all these things, it's easy to handle because you have a solution to it.
Yeah. Well, I know when I first started, my wife and daughter, I'll tell you, the first 2-3 days, I was pretty much an a-hole. But, but now I feel awesome, and I really do. One of the other, and one of the things I did want to point out, because you'd mentioned ketones, and obviously keto is a real buzzword. And I know when I first started with you, you had said, I don't really like to call this a keto program, because here's the big difference that I noticed when I started working with you is I had always thought keto, I can eat all the meat I want. I can eat all the cheese I want. I can eat all this other processed crap, but low carb, no sugar, things like this. But what I realized is that when I did that stuff before, I had lost some weight, but I also recognized my body was still not functioning as good as it feels right now. So
yeah,
I do want to point out a little bit of a difference that, and you can expound on this, but what I've been doing with you is yes, we've cut out carbohydrates and sugar, but I also don't look at this as just a keto diet, So you can expand on that a little bit too. Because I know the buzzwords, and people think, oh, he's doing keto. I don't really look at it that way.
No. And it isn't that. The reason why we kind of steer away from the word keto, and a lot of our clients use the word keto because they know that the fundamentals of the program are ketogenic fundamentals. That's fine. We produce ketones and so on. But this is a health program. This is to get people healthy. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, The only way to get healthy is to cut out sugar and carbohydrates and some other things too. I mean, you've got alcohol and you've got all sorts of other things that cause problems. So we don't like to say our program is a keto program. And because often, people do our assessment and then we do a consulting call with them and they go, oh yeah, I've been doing keto for years. It doesn't work for me. And I'm like, I understand. And I understand keto and I was like, I get it, but I can promise you now, when you do our program, you'll realize that you probably haven't been doing, there's something more to it that people are missing. And generally when people do that, they go, okay, cool, let's see what you got then. And they pay for the program and we get them started. And they go through all the same things that you went through, even though they were apparently on keto before, So you're dead right. There's a difference between the fad keto thing that you see on Facebook with the pink headlines and, Lumo headlines and all these kinds of things, and what we do. And South Africans we're not very flashy people.
Yeah.
We're very plain and we're very like salt of the earth and what you see is what you get kind of thing. So our marketing may be a little bit bland as far as that goes, which I think is a good thing, because I think people, when you're talking about your health and your body, you need to be with someone that you can trust and is not just trying to sell you some snake oil or something,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I'm going through and I think what really shifted my brain is when we first talked and you're like, no, we're going to do moderate protein. I'm like, moderate protein? I thought you were supposed to scarf down protein. And then when I started actually understanding it, too much protein can actually turn into sugar in your body, can it?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what
because that blew my mind. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's called protein neogenesis. So it's when you have excess protein that your liver, and most livers on planet Earth are compromised to some or other degree. So that they've got on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say the average health of the liver on planet Earth is probably this. So now you have the liver almost at 50% functionality, and it has to take that protein and extract all these nutrients from that protein, all the amino acids and all of these kinds of things that is actually what the body uses to build different parts of it, bone and muscle and skin and everything. So now you have this, so if you put too much in your body, the liver really doesn't know what to do with it. So it turns it into glucose. And then because you're not a fat burning machine, because your body's constantly, got glucose in it, it turns straight into the person start getting fatter. And it can actually put the liver under a lot of strain. And the liver is the center of the universe when it comes to our program. We really focus on getting that liver healthy, and that's why we take all this toxic food out of the program and try and put as much healthy, definitely nutritious food on the program that is good for the liver. So you have all this. I'll give you an example. So we do a lot of guys who are diabetic type 1. And diabetic type 1 is someone whose pancreas beta cells have stopped working and they don't produce insulin anymore. So they have to actually manually put insulin into their bodies. So they constantly have their little monitor on their arm and it's got on their phone and it warns them when their sugar goes too high or too low. So now you have this little monitor, and these guys maybe go and have a state which is way too big before before bed, and they go to sleep and they wake up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. with their sugar has gone right through the roof. And when they look at that, they can see that from the moment they ate that steak, that graph has just been rising through the night while they've been sleeping, But just obvious proof that too much protein does that. It does have its place, not too much protein, but like a carnivore type of diet. It does have its place, not as a permanent thing. It's a little bit, to me, and this is just my own opinion on this, based on my research, but it's a little bit like the other extreme of veganism. So you're missing essential food groups, and you can say whatever you want to that you're missing essential food groups when you do that. Some people's stomachs or digestive systems take a lot of strain when they eat vegetables. They're not used to eating vegetables, especially in the US, people don't eat vegetables. So their stomachs take a lot of strain and they get constipated or they get diarrhea or something happens, with their stomach. And it doesn't go away sometimes. I mean, mostly on our program, we handle it with, doing the correct probiotics to make sure that, that it starts breaking down those vegetables. But sometimes it just never happens. So we put the person on a carnivore type of diet where there's no vegetables, but there's no carbohydrates either, and there's no sugar. So they go on a carnivore diet, and then everything seems to settle down, and then we start introducing vegetables, mostly fermented, because that's already like kind of almost digested already. So they start adding those in, and then the gut flora that handles vegetables in the gut, it starts to flourish because it's got something that it can easily multiply on. So these kinds of high protein types of things have their place, but not long term. As far as I'm concerned, not long term. You can't live like that forever. But it is interesting what you say, people, and also eating large amounts of protein. If you crave protein, you get these guys who stand around the barbecue and they eat burger patties off the barbecue, then they go and they eat the burger patties off their plate, and then they eat their wives' burger patties, and they take their kids' burger patties.
Yeah.
And it's an indicator that the liver is compromised, because the liver is just trying to get more and more protein because it's not processing the protein. So it doesn't want the protein. It wants what's in the protein, but it can't extract it. So it wants more and more and more, if you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
And it compounds the problem. Similar to insulin resistance, like you compound the problem with the problem.
Yeah. That's what I really loved when you and I started working. You have a very balanced approach to it. And I liked that. I really did, and I think the other thing, I wanted to, ask you about too, and, regarding carbohydrates is there a difference between, obviously I would say there's a difference between processed carbohydrates, like all the processed food, especially in the States, it's out of control. And like, say, a fruit carbohydrate or is there a difference there? I don't really know.
There is. I mean, I would still not recommend fruit, and I'll get into that.
Yeah.
But there is a difference. So processed carbohydrates are processed. So they have chemicals that have been through some kind of probably a high heat process where, like, I'll give you an example. So you go, one slice of white bread
Yeah.
per gram spikes your glucose more than sugar does per gram, more than actual white sugar. So that's white bread. So that's an example of processed carbohydrates and what they do. Fruit does something similar, but it's not as much. The only problem with fruit is that it has fructose.
Yeah.
And fructose is quite destructive to the liver. The liver can't really process it. And it takes that fructose, it turns it to fat, and it places it back on the liver. You can literally get psoriasis on your liver from eating too much fruit. It can do the same kind of damage that alcohol does, So that's why we don't do fruit. And there's a big argument, obviously, about fruit, because fruit has, it has a lot of nutrients. There's no arguing that, it has nutrients, it has minerals and vitamins and all sorts of good stuff in it. But it's far, far, far outweighed by the amount of fructose in it. And that's the problem with it, So you can get your carbohydrates from vegetables, and if you look carefully at what vegetables that you eat, just, try and stay away from your root vegetables, because they also they're very starchy and low in fiber and so on, whereas your cruciferous vegetables, the bok choy, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, that kind of thing, kale and spinach, they are high. They have carbohydrates, but they also have fiber.
Right.
So if you take 10 grams of carbohydrates, and in that same food you have 6 grams of fiber, you have 4 grams of net carbohydrates, which is that's all you're gonna have to worry about is the 4 grams.
Yeah.
So you're getting your carbohydrates. It's not like you're not getting carbohydrates.
Right.
It's just you're getting them from a healthy source.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I love that. And because that's where this is a whole nother thing we could probably talk another hour on, is the absolute ridiculous food pyramid in the United States. I think I sent you something just the other day that they're talking about how, grains, all these other things. You should get 60% of your daily calorie intake of that. And I'm thinking, if I'm learning right and all the things I've been doing, and I know this has been working for me, that is total crap, filling
Yeah.
yourself with all that. And I shudder, to think of what goes into creating something like that. We don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's interesting to hear that because the reason I bring that up is because people think, oh, well, you're eliminating a food group if you're not eating something. No, your body will still get that from,
Yeah.
like you said, the vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. You have way enough. Look, I mean, I've been doing this for 13 years, 12, 13 years, just on 13 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm as healthy as anything. I am as healthy as anything. It's like I hardly ever get sick. If I get sick, it's got to be something really nasty that's going around. And I don't stay ill for very long. I have no attention on things like cancer. I have no attention on any kind of stomach issues or anything like that. I just work like a well-oiled engine. So if there was, and when I started this, I remember telling my mates what I was doing, and they were going, "Oh, you're gonna have a heart attack," and "Oh no, this is," and I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna give it a try because I'm probably gonna have a heart attack anyway." So exactly. I mean, that's a whole other subject in itself. This whole heart and blood pressure thing. But anyway, that's another issue. But and like it really is. I'm living proof of it. It's not like I live it. I'm not just this coach who's standing here mouthing off. I live this. My whole family lives this. My granddaughter, both my granddaughters, in fact, have never eaten processed carbohydrates or sugar in their lives, and they're both 4 years old.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two of them, or between them and other kids their age, is you can immediately see there's something different with these kids.
Yeah.
They never play up, they never dramatize, they never throwing tantrums. They are, and they're smart. I mean, they are my grandkids, of course. But it's they are healthy. They recover from illness very quickly, and however, children do need a little bit more carbohydrates than adults do because they can process it. Like we could when we were young, we could process carbohydrates better. But these guys, they don't need the processed carbs or anything like that. They have a lot of vegetables, and we give them a little bit of fruit. That's what they get. And other than that, I mean, if I take any one of them into a supermarket,
Yeah.
and I ask them what they want, they point to cucumbers. Like or baby cucumbers. Like, yeah, well, I want to have that, and they snack on a baby cucumber while they're sitting in the shopping trolley.
It's
a whole different thing.
I remember seeing a video one time, and it was a parent who had it was like a 2 or 3-year-old kid in a high chair sitting at the table, and they threw a pack of candy bars in front of this little girl, and she threw it off the table. And then they threw like a pack of like other candies, and she threw it off the table. And then they did it again and threw it off the table. And then they they put down a little bowl of carrots or a bowl. It was a bowl of something, vegetables. No, it was broccoli. Put a bowl of broccoli down. The little girl starts eating it. And I was like, yeah,
I love it.
I was like,
oh, I love it. Now, can you imagine, like you've got this little body where the cells are duplicating all the time, they're just replicating these cells, and they have to be built on some kind of a building block. Like, are you going to make that building block a fast food burger or a Happy Meal, or you're going to make it broccoli, and good red meat and some fish and, all of these healthy types of foods and fats. Which one do you think is going to work out best for this kid? I mean, it's not even a question,
Yep. Yeah. So I'm sure we could sit here and talk for the next 2 hours because that,
Totally.
I've been pursuing for a long time, and I mentioned earlier, there were 2 things that I found have helped me to be successful with this. One was learning how the body works, but the other is accountability. And
Yeah.
I know for myself, I've read all the, books, I've watched the videos, I've done all this. And it's like a lot of times we know what we should do, but we still don't. But I think the thing that's helped me the most over the last month is that daily message that I get from you. How's it going today? You know, I was just at an event this weekend and I was talking to a guy because he was looking at signing up for a coaching program in business. And I told him the biggest thing with accountability. And I told him about, me working with you on the health side. And I'm like, the biggest thing is accountability. No joke. I didn't tell you this, Nick, but as we're sitting there and I'm telling him this, you sent me a message. How's it going today? And I showed it to him on the phone. Like, see, that's what the coaching benefit is the accountability.
Yeah.
So, I definitely
We get that a lot, Mark. We get that a lot. Like all the coaches. I mean, we have a few coaches and all of them, all of our clients tell the coach, this is what I found to be most successful. And we know that about our program is we take the time to do it every day, every day. Maybe on a Sunday we'll stay out of the client's hair. Unless the guy's going through something and needs a bit of help, then we'll still be in his hair, But it is a matter of like being light and gentle, but yet forceful,
Yeah, because I mean, it ultimately gets down to, what the person says they want, and helping them get there is also reminding them of why they're doing it, But I know for me, part of my motivation is right now is because I don't want to tell Nick I had a freaking candy bar. And you know what I mean? But the accountability is a huge thing, whether it's in business coaching or health. And, I think that's the biggest thing is really finding someone to hold you accountable. And that I know that's what's worked well for me. So Nick, where can people find more about you? Like your website?
So, our website is bestbodyhealthcoach.com. I can send you a link to our app if you like. Then you can people can go onto that link. They can pick whichever. They should have an Apple or an Android, or they can go and check our website out there. If they do the assessment on the app, we will get one of the coaches will get hold of them and go, hey, you did our assessment. Thanks for that. When would you like to have a call? And that's free. The assessment's free. The consultation call is free. The program is $750 for 60 days. And then there's some supplements obviously involved, but the supplements vary from individual to individual. So, how they can get a hold of us and we know that we have a successful thing going, and it's not, obviously we're all in business, and I've been in business, like I say, for 30 years, but I love what I do. I love seeing guys like you, send me a message going, hey, Nick, I'm feeling great, and I mean, especially when a guy has a really serious health problem, like he's diabetic. And I mean, I had a guy last night, I did an assessment on him a year and a half ago, and he phoned me last night at about, 9 p.m. Also, he's in the US, in Florida.
Yeah.
And he phoned me last night about 9 p.m. He goes, hey, Nick, it's David, how's it going? I was like, yeah, I'm good. How you doing? He's like, yeah, man. Okay, I've got to start your program. I just came back from the doctor. And I've got my test results back, and, I'm diabetic now, so he literally paid for the program right there. You're getting started. I mean, we can never make these kinds of claims, publicly, but I know that we're quite successful with those types of things, blood pressure, diabetes, and, all of those types of lifestyle types of diseases, or diseases, if you want to call it. So that's where people can get all of us. We can help you with just about any health problem. If we don't handle it, it would be a lot better at the end of the program.
Well, who was it? I forget who said it. Let food be your medicine. I mean, honestly, I don't think people realize how much what we put in our mouths is the cause for all the disease and all the things. And it's a journey. It's a journey, and we're all on it. And I've always, when I got ready to start this, the one thing that I said to my wife was, honey, it's never too late to try again.
Totally.
And so if you've tried,
and look,
it's like worth trying again. Yeah.
Look at you. I mean, you're literally on your way to complete health.
Yeah.
I mean, a year from now,
Yeah.
where are you going to be now? As opposed to where you would have been. You're in the opposite end of the scale to where you would have been.
Yeah.
And that's a decision.
Yeah. As of today, 24 pounds, and I do not feel like I've starved at all, and I think that's what's incredible about it. So,
Yeah. And it's just going to keep peeling off and you'll just keep getting healthier. And this is the thing. And this may sound a little bit, unreal, but I've been doing this for, like I say, as long as I have. And I still feel I am having health gains from them. I
Yeah.
still feel like I get better in certain ways, And I'm a avid cyclist, and I measure a lot of how well I'm doing by how well I'm riding, because I ride at that kind of level, and my body's very finely tuned, and I just get better and better, and the older I get, the better I get. It's like,
No way.
it's just for me, it's
Yeah, I know we're gonna end it here, but for the longest time, I had aches and pains throughout my body. Like, I was feeling it in my joints, man. In the last month, they've all gone away. Like, I'm not
so it's
feeling all of this like I used to. Oh, and so that tells me a lot, about what.
so easy.
Yeah. So I love it, man. Well, Nick, I appreciate it, man. This has been a fun topic, very different than what we
Yeah,
talked about, but so crucial, to
totally.
successful in business. My gosh, if you're not sharp mentally, physically, you can't be your best for your customers, your whatever. And it matters. So I appreciate it, Nick.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, man.
yeah.
We'll have to do this again.
Totally. I appreciate you too, Mark. Thank you very much for this. I really enjoyed this. I love talking about this.
We'll do it again when I reach my 100-pound goal. So,
Yeah.
all right, everybody, if you enjoyed this, share it with a friend, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.